Did I ever tell you I peed in my water bottle before?
I know what you tried to say, but there were some L's where there should have been some R's.
Wait, how did it come out? Say it.
Did I ever tell you I peed in my water bottle before? Pretty sure. We'd have to rewind the tape on that one and hear it. But
did I ever tell you that? I peed. Well.
I've been out with you during archery season, and you're like everything from had to use my underwear today to wipe to I'm not surprised at all that you would have peed in your bottle. So I don't know. Like
I don't know if I ever told you that. I did. Yeah.
If you ever told me that you used your own underwear to wipe your ass while archery hunting,
yeah, no, I've told you
100%
that.
told me that.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking about peeing in my own water bottle.
So
this one, the one on the desk, I peed in that.
My dad never drank from the red one on my dad's boat. I think it's red because that's his pee bottle.
Well, see here,
but you're saying you peed in it.
I peed in that.
Then you cleaned it and then you drink from it again. So that one right there.
Exactly right.
Oh
Exactly right.
All
Pee's
right.
sterile, brother.
So you drink your own pee?
No, I did not drink the pee.
Well,
here's what happened. I feel like I'm justified. So I don't care if you judge me or if anybody listens judged me.
you were driving.
Nope.
You were a passenger.
No.
All right, go ahead.
I was in somewhere along the 40-mile river in Alaska, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was really cold outside, and we had the tent. We had like a hot tent, right? So we have a wood stove inside of our tent, and I woke up and I had to piss real bad, and I was like, I'm not going outside. And so I peed in my water bottle, and then the next day I cleaned it. We kept bleach to purify our water. That's how we chlorine bleach to purify the water, so we didn't get any parasites in our bellies, which I've dealt with that before too.
Todd.
God, that sucked so bad. And so I peed in it and then just bleached it the next day, and then went back to drinking out of it.
And
see, that's not to me. That's not as gross as you having mildew in yours that you didn't know and you were drinking from for however long.
is mildew? Are there like?
Well, you had gross shit in your water bottle.
Yeah,
shit was growing in your water bottle.
Potentially.
No, it was.
Or it could have just been sediment from the electrolyte powder that I had in there. We don't know. You didn't test it.
You, sir, said it was mildew.
I never used the word mildew.
You're backpedaling now.
I never used the word mildew, but it was disgusting. I'll give you that.
Well, I don't think that's more gross than me peeing in my own water bottle.
See, the thing is,
drink out of it right now.
That's clear. That's clear. So you can see, like this is metal and it's dark on the inside, and I know I'm not the only one that takes these knockoff thermo flask / hydro flask and uses it daily and doesn't routinely clean it. If I'm not saying everyone that owns one does that, but I'm saying
wash it though.
I'm a new man now. I'm going to wash this thing frequently. Yeah.
Because even so, there's like germs on your mouth and shit, man, and like they get in there, you know.
Maybe your mouth, but
no, I'm pretty sure yours is gross too. Everybody has a gross mouth.
Well, now that we've covered this topic,
well, I just want to make sure that
people know,
people understand.
You got to clean your water bottles.
People, I think that was a good exposition on you versus me. You know. And
whoa! So, because you clean your water bottle
consistently and frequently,
whose car is cleaner?
What do you mean by cleaner?
Okay, let's put it this way. One time, Mike Connolly is in town, and he said, Todd, can I use your car? And he ran around to do whatever errands. I don't know. But he came back to the gym, and then we were all going to get food or something. I mean, imagine that's what we were going to do. But either way, we were all going to pile into your car. And you open the door, and you're like, Mike, what did you do to my car? And Mike is just laughing. He's like, what are you talking about, Todd? You're like, come on, what'd you do to my car? You're like losing your mind. And he's like, I cleaned it, dude. Your car was disgusting. I took it to a car wash where they did the outside and the inside. You're welcome. And
the only reason I said this is because the kettlebells were sitting on the seat.
Your car was so clean. You didn't recognize it. You thought something was wrong.
No.
And you were angry.
It's because things were moved around. It wasn't the cleanliness of my car. It was because things were moved around. And I don't have that card anymore.
I'm just saying, I think the water bottle is probably the only thing that you have me on cleanliness.
No.
Did you shower
maybe
today?
hygiene.
Did
Yeah,
you
I
shower
showered.
today? Did you shower yesterday?
Yeah, I showered yesterday.
Do you shower every day?
No.
Okay.
You don't need to.
Do you brush your teeth how many times a day?
2.
Okay.
Floss twice. I do pre-brush rinse and I do post-brush rinse.
Do you use deodorant every day?
No.
Do you ever use deodorant?
Sometimes. I don't smell that bad.
That bad.
I'm not like a funky guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, you got me on the water bottle. I don't think you got me on much else with cleanliness and organization. It's my thing. It's the water bottle. It's my thing.
That's the chink in your armor.
You found it. You found it. You found it.
Well, I want to ask you a question. And Chris, what's worth wanting, Chris Merritt, in your eyes? What is worth wanting?
I know where you're getting this question from.
Well, I know you know I'm getting this question. Corduroy hats.
I'm gonna for sure, dude. Specifically, when you find a good fitting hat, you buy them in every color.
Corduroy.
Yeah.
I remember
unfortunately,
my grandma would buy me corduroy pants for the Christmas dance every year, and I would always be pissed because I'd have to wear corduroys.
corduroy pants are still fantastic.
They're not cool.
They're
no.
Well,
when were they cool? Like, when were they supposed to be cool?
probably early 2000s when a lot of that retro stuff was coming back.
But
around.
like before that, because I remember like 1999 when she would buy them for me as like a 12 or 13-year-old boy.
I think your mom probably knew more about style than you. Your grandma knew more about style than you. Likely she was
cool
buying
then.
it at the right time.
They weren't cool then. I didn't find them cool.
Oshkosh?
I think they were. Yeah, I think they were.
To your original question, I would have to answer that. What's worth wanting? Man, like for me specifically?
No, I'm asking about somebody else.
The reason why, I swear to God, this isn't a sales pitch, but the reason why I want to build out this like online community in 2024, a lot of it has to do with, I think, like a community. How do I put this? Okay. I'm not trying to dance around the question, but I don't have a succinct answer except for that.
You could probably list things.
I feel like, well, I'm going to talk about one big gap right now for me. What's worth wanting is like a true community of people that I feel like I really resonate with and would want to get together with on a regular basis and do fun things, which I realize can be such like a fun, could be, but the types of things that I like to do. And I feel like that's something that since moving to Northern Virginia, with the exception of maybe like small periods of time, I haven't had. So for me, like, I think that's the biggest thing. There's that, right? Like, I think that would be more on like a personal side of things, but then the cliche answers, but the truth of like a genuinely happy, healthy, tight-knit family. I don't know. Like how would you, I take it that you've put some thought into this when you went through that section.
I think about everything.
And wrote some stuff down. I'll bet you did.
I haven't written anything down about it yet, but
so
I have listened to it twice.
The whole book twice already?
No, I've listened to the book once, and I've listened to that section twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be your answer?
Well, I would say at the most fundamental level would be to make sure that I'm always living in accordance with who I really am and making decisions based on that. Why are you smirking?
I didn't know if you were going to come out with something big right now.
Oh.
But no, never mind. Go ahead.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Nothing.
All right.
since we don't like, I'm rolling into this episode today with no
I know.
awareness of like what the topic is we're covering. I was like, ooh.
No, I don't have anything big. I mean, I just figured we'd talk about that because I think that's it. That's fundamentally it, right? You know, because
Okay, but what?
because like all these experiments that like these thought experiments, like he says about, and that like Hormozy says about it, like thinking of your 85-year-old self.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing that shit for a decade.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like sitting down and thinking about, you know, where you, what that might look like and what would disappoint you in yourself. And I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the questions that people don't, and I think that sometimes a lot of times people judge themselves too harshly on the small things, but they don't judge themselves enough on the bigger things. And that's where it's like, you know, I would imagine that there's probably a bunch of psychologists that would say I was wrong for asking myself this question, but like I ask myself this question, like, who would I like more all the time? You know, and I think that that's a valuable question to ask yourself is like, if you're whether it's today or it's, you know, 47 years from now, so says my death counter when I'm going to be checking out, it's like, who would I like more? And I think that's a fair question because it's like, even, you know, when you are trying to get yourself through a workout that you want to do or whatever it is, like, who would you like more? You would like you'd like the version of yourself that does the thing, you know? And so I think that that's a valuable question that's in line with that, where it'll check in to see if, like, most fundamentally you are living and trying to become the person that you want to become while also being the person that you want to be today. And I think that's worth wanting. And then I think everything else layers on top of that. Because, for example, you know, I know a lot of people say family and kids and all this kind of stuff, but I know that there are so many people that have that didn't actually check in with themselves and didn't actually want it. And now they have it and they're like, they can't find happiness, whether it's like just accepting like, well, you do actually have this very nice thing that a lot of people want and will never have. But because they didn't actually check in with themselves and say, this is a thing that I want, they just followed through on like what he says, like the societal, what's the word that he uses?
I don't remember.
Like you're essentially on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I think that has fundamentally, you have to check in with that question and say, am I living to as best as possible to the most degree, what is real for me? And we have the luxury to do that right now. Like, right. Like there are times in history where it hasn't been possible, but we do have that luxury now. And so I think that's where you start. That's where I start. And I'm just some guy, you know, but
I think though, like where I say, what's worth wanting, like it's not an aspirational, happy, healthy, like loving family. I think it's also like realizing that something we talk about here, like in running the business, like the little things are the big things. And like, realizing, I'm trying to think if it, like, cause I read that and I read Morgan Housel's book so fast, like back to back, that I forget which one had said this, but like, big things aren't like typically like it's all of the little things that really define your life. Like, sure, there's like big things that like, okay, this really changed some stuff, but you only have so many of those. And like, we overlook all of the little seemingly inconsequential things at the time. And so for me, it's kind of in combination with what you're saying with like your 85-year-old self,
right,
reflecting back, like stupid little things, like when you have a 6-year-old, at least my 6-year-old, like it's so easy to get pulled into stupid arguments with your child that you reach a level of like, I'm going to win this one, right? And that's those moments where you can stop and be like, all right, what would my 85-year-old self? Because like, for instance, I mean, I'll give you one that I kicked myself for the other day, but I still look at it and go like, no, like she needed to learn in that moment. Like I go to pick her up. So after regular school, she goes to aftercare for a bit and I go in and she's drawing. Like, kid loves to draw. It's awesome. She's in there, she's drawing. And I go in, I'm like, Finley, let's rock. And she looks at me and she says, I'm only going with you if you're getting me a dessert or something like that.
What a tyrant.
And I'm like, and she does a lot of these, like, tries to make deals that she has no, like,
She doesn't have any leverage.
no.
For that deal.
And I'm just like, and I said something like, and I'm still like laughing. I'm like, you can get out of here with that. I'm like, let's go. And I turned around and walked out expecting she's following me. Except for that now I'm standing in a hallway and I'm like, this kid's not coming, is she? So I'm standing there and I'm like, all right, we're going back in, right? And it's like, there's like multiple teachers in the room. She's in there with her friends. And so I go back in. I'm like, Finley, we got to go. And I don't, at this point, it's been a couple weeks. Like, I don't remember the exact play-by-play, but she essentially ignored me. And then I think we talked before about how she gets $6 a week, right? So then when I was like, Finley, for every minute that you don't get up from this table, you're going to lose $1 from your, she has like a little money tin. I'm like, you're going to lose $1. Well, that immediately, like, she sprung into action, right? She's getting everything. And so then I helped her out by picking up the drawing that she was making and started heading into the hallway. Well, she has a complete meltdown, like freaking out. And this is not like the norm for her, right? So this is like what is going on? So we get in the hallway and she's screaming at me to give her drawing back, okay? And I'm like, then come get your drawing. Like, we're leaving. You can walk out with your drawing, right? And so I'm like halfway down this one hallway and she runs up to me. I'm like, here you go. And I hand it to her. And then I realized why she was saying, only if you give me my drawing back. Because the moment that drawing was in her hand, she grabbed it and ran back in there to continue drawing. Okay? So I don't remember what I said. I think I tried to do the whole, like, all right, figure out your own way to get home, which oftentimes will work, right? Didn't work. That is actually exactly what I said. So I headed towards the front door. But now I'm the idiot standing in the front of this place. No kid. And I'm like, right? But point being is like, what does this all have to do with like your 85-year-old self reflecting? My 85-year-old self would be like, the kid wants to draw, hang out for 5 minutes, right? But the issue, the principle that was missed here was just saying, hey, Dad, can I have 5 more minutes to finish this drawing? There was no, like, the greeting was, I'm only going with you if you're getting me dessert. Like, what? You know what I mean? So at some point, though, I could have a complete shift in attitude if I would stop and reflect in a moment like that. Like, all right, hang on. This is going to spiral out of control real fast, right? Sure. But instead, I went to walk back in, and at this point, her teachers are blocking her from getting back to the table. And so they're telling her that she needs to go. So then whenever I go, and I'm like, Finley Rose, like, now. And I point, and she sprints by me, and it's like a little bit of a maze to like get back to the front door of this place. And this is where I'm like, all right, hopefully nothing like this ever happens, because they had no chance of stopping her. I'm not with her. She sprints out the front door of the place, right? So now there's people up front who are like, where is that child's parent? You know what I mean? Like, she just left your school. She's gone. And that easy. And I'm a bit behind her, so I'm like, I'm right here. I'm like, she is out of control right now, right? Like, I am frustrated. And so we get outside, and I'm just like, I'm getting in this freaking truck. We're going. She's having a full-on meltdown, won't get in the truck. I got her in the truck, and in the 3-minute drive from there to home, as we're parking, she's like crawling up to the front seat, crying, not while I'm driving, once we parked, crying, apologizing, right? But letting me know it's just that we don't have that color marker here. Still like kind of justifying her actions. So we get inside, and she wants to find all of her drawing stuff. Come to find, I go to the bathroom. Come to find, she has that exact color purple. So now I hear her bawling her eyes out to Jess. And I mean, she said some messed up stuff in the car that I left out, like messed up stuff. Like, there's a point when you're 6, I think, that you're just like,
there's vulnerability.
Oh,
yeah.
Like,
you can try to hurt
and it's
somebody.
not even like, it's like stuff that you're like, when I say messed up, it's like stuff that that someone doesn't mean, but it's like, I know with your level of maturity that you're trying to say the most hurtful thing that you can. So it was like, I want to hurt you right now. I want you to go to the hospital. I hope you die. And I'm like, all right. You know, like
it's aggressive.
It's
Okay.
very aggressive,
Sure.
right?
All right.
So I mean, and there's like in your head, you're starting to go like, all right, this kid is just, I don't know, tired, hungry, whatever. This is crazy. This is so out of character. But then to bring it like full circle, we get home. I'm like, I'm going to the bathroom for a minute. I'm just gonna chill out. And she gets the coloring stuff from Jess, and come to find she has the exact color purple that she needed. And now she's crying to Jess, saying like, I just said all these mean, hurtful things to Daddy for no reason. Turns out I have it. And Jess is like, but if we didn't have it, you would have been justified in saying those things. So all that to say is like a super roundabout way of like, I find myself, not all the time, but like, dude, like raising a person, it's so easy to find yourself in moments where you can go like, we did plan on having a family. Like I am very, I don't know what the word is, but I don't want to say calculated, but I know what I want, and we do a lot to facilitate that type of an environment in our house. And yet you will still find yourself in moments that seem completely out of your control because you're dealing with the tyrant mindset and attitude of someone whose brain just doesn't have the development beyond this moment. You know what I mean? Of like whatever their whims and desires are in this exact moment. And you have the ability to, I don't know if I could have like made that a perfect moment, but I am very aware I could have been like, you know what I mean? And like, all right, let's overlook some of this stuff, not permanently, but in the moment, let's overlook some of this stuff. Hey, do you just want a little bit more time to draw? And that situation probably goes away. You know what I mean? There's other stuff we probably need to talk about later, but that's a long-winded way to say, like, that's what I mean whenever I say, like, it takes work. And I think that that's worth wanting. It's worth reflecting on moments like that and doing the work to try and facilitate that type of family interaction, I guess I'll say. And especially, like, after the fact. But when you're in those moments, that's not necessarily what's going through your head. And so I think for me personally is like, I want to do better in those moments. And I think that's worth wanting. So I don't know. I don't know if that really is in line with the way that he's asking the question.
I think it is. I mean, so but I guess why is that worth wanting is then the next question, right? So why is it worth wanting all of that? Because you could say there's a lot of people that would hear something like that and maybe say, well, maybe it isn't worth wanting a child or to deal with the tyrant from ages 3 until, well, however, or it's not worth wanting to do it the difficult way where you have to be in control of yourself. Or what is the outcome? Why is it worth it?
I mean, no, I'm going to say
he doesn't know.
No, it's the cliche, like, you have an idea of what you want. Speaking personally, you have an idea of, I think everyone reflects on maybe a piece of like their own upbringing and then a little bit of idealistic, like, here's what I'd like,
Sure.
you know, with the family. And so you have that.
Yep.
And then you have a kid. And like, for me, like the moment in the hospital where it's like, you know, you're there overnight. I think we left the next day. I don't remember. I don't think we stayed more than one night. And then you're leaving and you're like, wait a minute. Like, you guys are just giving us this kid. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know any, you know what I mean? And so, I don't think you're not thinking of those kinds of things, right? But like, for me, like, I grew up in don't get me wrong, like, me and my brothers, we fought, like, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be weird to be in a family where there is just like, everything's hunky-dory all the time, right? Like, there's
It either doesn't exist or there's like,
it's fake.
like there's like a rapacious undercurrent that's going to tear everybody apart, you know?
And so I think there's even value in, of course, experiencing those things and navigating them. So all that to say, I don't think you think about these moments when you're thinking about wanting a family,
But
right?
what I'm saying is, like, why is it worth it now? Like, why is it worth it to, what do you see that makes it so you sit there, because there could be a lot of, like, I don't think,
just like screw it, do what you want. Like,
well, I mean, no, just to be like, because I'm obviously, well, not obviously, not everybody would know that, but I'm not a parent yet.
Yeah.
But to sit there, and I understand the value in this. So I'm saying this almost tongue in cheek or as like playing devil's advocate. So then why is it worth it? Why is it worth wanting to stop and reflect and do those things in a different or a better way when there's a lot of people, I would say, I don't know if I can, a large percentage of people that would sit there and get into that fight every time and not evaluate their behavior and not evaluate their child's behavior. And they just think like, well, raising a kid is just miserable sometimes.
Yeah.
I can't wait until she's 10 and she can do, you know what I mean? So, but that's obviously not the case for you. So why is it worth it to stop and do that and reflect and think about? So what is the outcome?
I mean, one, I would wonder, I'm sure there are some, but are there as many people as you think?
Oh,
You think so?
I do.
Because I don't know, man.
You have to consider your own associations and where we live and who you are in your circles most of the time.
Yeah.
That is not the majority of people.
Yeah. I feel like anything I'm going to say here is I keep using this word today, like super cliche, but it's like, it's all an opportunity to teach. It's a scary, scary responsibility, right? Like, and, I love, man, I read a lot of parenting stuff and I'm trying to think of, I think it's from the book. Yeah. It's Hal Runkle, Scream Free Parenting is the book. And one of the premises that like he harps on in there is like, you are responsible to your kids, not for your kids. And so I'm responsible to teach Finley these things, right? I'm not responsible for it if like, as we go over this stuff, like, and we should be walking away learning from these experiences. Like if she chooses to keep doing really stupid things, that like there are consequences, right? And there's consequences in the house and there will be consequences in life, right? But I have both an opportunity, but also a responsibility to help her to learn from these interactions, which is interesting at 6, because you can't have like, you can and you can't, but you can't have like an in-depth conversation. You know what I mean? It's like, but yeah. You can't have all the amazing things that hopefully if you do this parenting thing right, at least you're part of it. You can't be responsible for whatever they choose to do regardless of, because I think everyone's seen it. Someone was raised very well and turn out to make horrible life decisions, right? Like, and I think everyone can have their opinion, but like there's some situations where it's not that the parents did something wrong, and there's other situations where the parents do everything wrong and kids turn out perfectly fine, right? Sure. But I don't know. I kind of forget where I was going with that last point, but like,
so why is it important to have that responsibility too? Like, why is that?
Well, number one, I don't want to, put a tyrant into the world.
Okay. Cool. Fair enough. So why is that important?
There's a selfish component to it, right? Like, I think I look at my own family, right? And I'm one of 3 boys. But regardless, one of 3, like my parents have 3 kids. And now, we all have kids. I'm not saying like I'm putting anything out there like, oh, Finley has to have kids, but like whatever, like the next steps are, like to be a part of a tight knit family. And to have all of those experiences, like, and to see like my parents, like they're genuinely proud of like what me and my brothers are doing. You know what I mean? And they enjoy being a part of our lives, and we enjoy being a part of their lives, right? And I'm not saying that I think that's a rare occurrence. But I don't think it's a guaranteed.
No, it's definitely not.
It's not a guaranteed thing. Yeah, I'm not saying I don't think it's definitely not a guaranteed thing. And so, like, thinking multiple steps ahead, like, I'm very aware that regardless of where things go, I don't, to some level, I don't care what Finley does. I'm sure there's some things I'd be like, but I think thinking longer term and thinking long term, not just like raising a responsible, contributing adult to the world, but also like just thinking longer term and like all of the other life experiences we can have, like when we get these things right, I guess. So.
Okay. I mean,
This is some weird conversation today.
Is it? Why is
I
it
don't
weird?
know. Well, I mean, just like,
It's not weird.
I don't know if weird is the right word, but again, we walked into this. I'm like, what do you want to talk about today? You're like, I'm going to ask you some questions. I didn't see it going here, so.
That's fine. Well, I don't know, because I think it's, people call it, first principles or whatever, but it's, I think, coming back to like the fundamental reasons and being able to articulate them for yourself is the most important thing, right? And so that's why I'm asking you questions like, well, okay, great. So why is it important to raise a responsible, contributing human being? Why does that matter? Because you could sit there and say that it doesn't. And there are many people that would say that it doesn't. They would take a nihilistic approach, but and maybe there is no meaning other than the meaning that you ascribe to it, but nonetheless, you have to know why it has meaning to you. And I think that that's where, if you have some of those fundamentals defined for yourself, you are better able to live them out because you got to know what they are, and put them in different places. And that's,
I think this is where something like that we use in business a lot, but I think there's a lot of commonalities. I'm not saying that a family is a business, but a lot of the like planning and visioning that you use for business can be used in any aspect of your life, including family. And one thing I think is something as simple as heaven and hell. What does heaven look like, right? And you'll find your values in some regard that way. But then what does hell look like? And I really still think, bring it to business. The other day, it's like we were sitting here doing the beginnings of our annual planning for 2024 for the gym. And I don't remember exactly how we got there, but at one point I was like, let's talk about the enemies, like, right? Like, who are our enemies? And in some ways, like, those things are also like hell to me. You know what I mean?
sure.
And when you understand that stuff, you understand what you're moving away from, which helps you have even more clarity on what you're moving towards. And so like hell would look like constant fighting and bickering, and like the moments that now I don't get me wrong, I'm not like condoning it, but kind of chuckle at like, wow, you were so angry that you said these things that you absolutely don't mean, like I said, like minutes later she's crying and hugging, I'm so sorry. It's like, yeah, dude, that was pretty extreme. Like, what? But hell would be that I'm not in control of my emotions, and I say something really stupid back, and then that continues, and then she goes to bed that night, and then ruminating, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And that spirals into whatever it is the next day, and just imagine what that could turn into over days, over weeks, over months, and it's pretty easy to look at me like, well, of course you wouldn't do that, but that's hell.
That's
like,
not,
and I think it's good to.
That's not an of course though. There are plenty of people that do.
Yeah, and I like that's hell, and I think it's good to have awareness of things like that. Like, well, and you could use that as an out. Well, at least we're not doing that, and that's where I think then you have the heaven side. Like, cool, at least we're not doing that, but that's not
good enough.
We don't want not doing that. We want these things,
right?
But knowing what you don't want helps you again, like, get more clarity on what you do want. It's not necessarily just the opposite, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about, I don't know, I had some thoughts about that, but, it occurred to me, like, and this is just random, but, I think, like one of the barometers you can tell where you're kind of living the way that you should, and you kind of have your shit together, at least in some respects, you don't take credit for shit you're just supposed to do. You know what I mean? Because if you ever notice like somebody that's like not doing well, and I'm not saying this in a judgmental way, but they try to take credit for shit you're just supposed to do.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like we'll just say arbitrarily, because I get like it's just being a good son, and whatever aspect of that you're supposed to do, whatever it could be, whatever your individual situation might be, and someone compliments you for that, and like instead of just like being like, well, yeah, like it swells you in some way with pride, or whatever. But it's some other instance where like I feel like there's like some sense of lack if you're just trying to take like feeling too prideful about things that like, well, you probably just should do that. That's not something you need to, that's not a big achievement. That's baseline,
Yeah. I think, and I'm not saying this is where I think you're going with it, but I think there's also a level of, with kids, still making sure that you're praising them for things that they're just supposed to do.
I think I'm talking about grown-ups. I'm talking about adults.
Because I'm
I'm talking about adults, man.
Because, if you treated an adult the way that you treated a kid, it would come off as very offensive. But
that's why I get so frustrated when there are adults that want that.
Yes.
It frustrates the fucking shit out of me.
Well, dude. I'm also saying but it should be offensive to that adult that you're treating.
Exactly,
that way.
It should be. Yes.
If you were like imagine if this isn't really a good example, but I think most people could at least envision it in their head. Imagine if, because then people are like, you think your wife just should do the dishes? So like, it's not what I'm saying, but
easy.
But say that like Jess did the dishes, and I was like praising her for like, you did so good on those dishes. Like, thank you.
She'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Like it would be like. But if Finley did the dishes,
oh sure, yeah,
at her age, they're probably not going to be that great. But like, you did a great job on the dishes. Like, thank you so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like,
I'm talking about adults.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Where it's like if you treated adults, but with kids, like there's praising them for things, and I don't even know, should kids be doing the dishes, but for things that
depends.
You'd like them to do more of, maybe, or whatever. But it's all manipulative. You're just manipulating people, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's manipulation, but it's like there's the cliche of you teach people how to treat you, or you teach like, because for example, I've heard some psychologists when say like, let's say that your wife or your husband or your partner or whatever, they approximate some behavior that you want them to display, but it's not perfect. Like, you praise them for it.
Yeah.
Like, you not like in a douchebaggy way, but like you say thank you, or you do whatever, even if it's not perfect, or you acknowledge it, and you give them some kind of something for that, so that
it's still manipulative.
And I guess it's how you want to define manipulative. I think manipulation depends on intentions partially.
Well, I think there could be positive. You could.
I guess it depends what connotation you want to put on that word, for sure.
Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but if you're influencing, what's the difference between influence and manipulation?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to. I think it would, if you come down to.
I think it's intention. Maybe, I don't know.
Intention, but you have to cut those words apart, and see what exactly you mean by them. But
I'd be curious what the.
I would imagine that if you look up manipulation, it's going to say it's going to have that context of like a selfish motive.
The action of, come on, you can't use the word. This is terrible.
It says manipulating.
The action of manipulating something in a skillful manner. The action of manipulating someone in a clever.
It's a terrible definition.
Way.
It's a terrible definition.
Okay, so manipulate. Handle or control, typically in a skillful manner. Control or influence a person or situation cleverly, unfairly, or unscrupulously. So, manipulation has a level
the
of...
adverbs are what really give it the connotation.
Cleverly, unfairly, or unscrupulously.
Yeah. So, go to just influence then.
But could influence... Its influence is in there, so influence could... be manipulative.
Just see what it says, Chris.
The capacity to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something.
Yeah, because you
or
could
the effect
you
itself.
you could influence people without any intention. You know what I mean? Just by in the way that
Yes.
we have this conversation,
Yeah.
it could influence somebody, and we're not. Yeah, I sincerely was just asking exploratory questions because I wanted to understand.
Yeah.
I have no intention other than that, but somebody could listen to this and it influences them, or someone watches your behavior and influences them. And I think intention matters, So I don't know, but then there's like people take those words and spin them all around and do all kinds of crazy shit with them. So I don't know. I think I think it's obvious that no one can tell you what's worth wanting, but I think it's difficult sometimes until you skillfully learn how to limit noise and separate yourself from some influences.
So go back and say again, you were like, I think this is the underlying over everything. Say it again, like for what's worth wanting.
To live in such a way that it is in line with who you truly are and who you truly want to become. And that's it. I mean,
so what's the want part of that?
What's the want?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the want would be, why is that worth wanting? Is what you're saying?
Well, you're just saying to do. You just gave like a to do example.
So,
to live.
Yeah, but you said, why is that worth wanting? That's essentially what it comes down to.
No, I'm saying.
Why is it worth wanting that?
No, I'm saying what's the want there? I'm just hearing an action.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing a want.
Well, I think that encompasses all of the wants. Like, because then you will want.
That's a cop-out.
It's not a cop-out answer. I can explain exactly what I'm talking about. It puts you in the position to want things that are actually meaningful and to you. So if you understand.
So then, what are those things?
They're for each person to decide for themselves.
But I'm saying, you asked me, like, what are your
For me?
What are your wants? Yeah.
Oh,
Because that's all you said. You were just like to, and then I made a joke of it. Like you said, like to live true to who I really am, or something like that.
I mean,
which could be a want, but that would make me think someone's not living. Like, and
I think that I am. I have a hard time not doing that, and it's pretty obvious to everyone when I if I don't feel like something's right, because I just I usually just won't do it. I mean, I think that, I don't remember who I was talking to about this. But I think that there are two things that are uniquely human that I think are worth wanting. And one of them is the choice to be physical, right? And so you look at other animals, and they have no choice to be physical. It's like, did we talk about this? Okay. They have no choice. They have to be physical. And it's like, that's just the embodiment of their existence, right? So they, if you're an elk, you have to move and graze and run from mountain lions and run from wolves. If you're a wolf, you have to chase and hunt and do whatever you have to do to stay alive. But humans don't have, at least in this state of our evolution, existence, whatever you say, we don't have to do anything. So choosing to be physical and choosing to express your life in that way, I think, is a uniquely human thing. And I think that is worth wanting. And then the other thing that's uniquely human is artistic expression. No other animal does that. And so I think it's worth probing in which way that is meaningful to you and doing it. And I think that everybody has that in them. Maybe not to the certain levels of talent that might other people have, but I think everybody has it in them. I think a lot of people are terrified, especially coming from a rural setting like I come from, where, dudes are fucking supposed to dip Copenhagen, drive big trucks, and drink Budweiser and not show their feelings, And so, but I think everybody has it in them to some degree. And everybody's art is a little bit different, but I think that pursuing those two things are worth wanting, both from an experiential aspect, because you get to have, I mean, I think that's really it. You get to have experiences that you otherwise wouldn't have. And then it allows you to connect with yourself and other people, which allows you to have the best possible experience that you could have here. And I think if it really comes down to that, it's like you just draw circles going out. Like, well, if I make this decision, how will it affect me now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now? And how does it affect the people around me? And being able to put yourself in that position allows you to, like, fundamentally, the thing that I said about like living true to yourself. I think if you're really in tune with that, you don't make as many purely selfish decisions, but when you make selfish decisions, you make them for the right reasons. And so when you do that, you don't feel the need to be as manipulative, or in your motives are in a different place. And so I think that, like, those means of expression are worth wanting. I think living as close to fundamentally who you are is worth wanting. I think figuring out how you want to express yourself, and I mean that, I don't mean that in like some outlandish way. You know, you don't have to write, you don't have to try to force it. You know, I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble, is they don't really know what self-expression is, so they just change the way that they dress, or they dye their hair or something like that. And it's superficial. But I think sorting that out is worth wanting. And I think that having as many genuine connections with people that you care about and want to be around is worth wanting.
Yeah.
And I think outside of that, like, everything is secondary. And then everything else just becomes a means to how you achieve those things.
I think the very last thing that you said is the one that connects me the most. And it's where I was like, I don't want to make this a sales pitch. And it's like, because you could sit there and be like, okay, so you just want to create something because you want more friends. And it's like, no,
well,
like,
you don't have many friends, if we're being honest, Chris. It's like, it's not want more, start with maybe a couple, you know?
But it's about wanting to create a feeling and connections for a bunch of people. And like, yeah, but the very last part of what you said is what I think resonates for me the most. I know you're saying everyone has their own, but like,
it takes context to make that valuable, because I know that, you know, I've harped on this word and like kind of like took a scalpel to the definition for years because I think people were using it incorrectly. But that's like, it takes a while to truly be empathetic, you know? And I'll just use the example, something that's topical in my world, is like taking someone hunting and like watching them. So for example, I didn't take you hunting, but like that night when you killed your first deer, mm-hmm. and I came up to help you. Oh, I enjoyed that far beyond any time I killed a deer.
Yeah, I
really did. And I think it takes you time and a lot of life to really see that, like, you know, for example, I'll just use you an example, and I'm not saying this is necessarily the truth, but like you having that experience of doing the Georgia death race and how it altered you, both from training, from the accomplishment and everything else. And then like you have that experience, but it takes maturity and wisdom, and then being able to express that empathetically to say, it is meaningful for me to help other people achieve this.
Bingo.
And it takes a lot of time. I think some people naturally are better at it, but I think for most people, like, you're not really that good at it in your 20s. Maybe in your early 30s, you start to get it. But like, I think now you really, at the point we're at, we're 37, we'll be 38 next year. And, you know, middle age isn't that far away. And time starts to make more sense and starts to feel more scarce. And you realize that, like, oh, well, this also kind of turns out better if we all have better experiences and more connection. And however you can bring that is valuable.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way you put that hits the nail on the head in terms of what the Georgia death race did for me and what I want to build out in the coming year. And it not just being like another online training program that the world absolutely does not need. But yet, I think something that we did well with Strength Faction, which is create an online business that feels like a brick and mortar business and gives people, which some this didn't happen, well, at all, or it didn't happen for years. And yet when it did, which is meeting in person, it just felt like
People knew each other.
you've known them forever, right? Like there's some people still from Strength Faction that I feel like I know incredibly well, but then I stop and I go like, I actually don't know if I've ever met you in person. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty wild. So I think to be able to create that and invite people, whether it's inviting them here or we're going and doing like I don't think this is the right term for it, but like a retreat type thing, like a couple times a year, maybe more. But get people together and have something that like every block of training is building towards like whatever that next get together thing is that we're all going to go do. And it's like, do something hard that like gives you that like transformational experience like the Georgia Death Race did for me. But then I think what would be even cooler, because it's like, sure, like you're running with different people and you're having conversations, but then you hit the finish line and typically you have people there waiting for you. And then you're beat. It's midnight and you're like, all right, I want to go sleep. Like, so something that's not quite as like, I need to immediately go sleep afterwards, but where you're like, God, that like changed my perception in whatever way that is, like what I can do physically. Maybe I had like a mental thing that I overcame during that, but then to be able to sit down with all the people that went through that and break bread or whatever, like the next thing is, like, I just think, I think that would be really cool. And so all that to like the very beginning where I'm like, to me, it's worth wanting because of, again, what you articulated way better than I did, like taking that experience and that feeling that I had, but being like, I think there's ways it could be done better. And I think we could do something really cool with it. So
Yeah. Careful with the word need.
Where did I use it?
Well, you said like they don't need another online
Well,
program.
here's what I mean. Like,
Because, and I know a kind of what you're getting at,
Yeah.
but like no one needs anything.
No, I
other
know
than
that.
to
And
eat
you don't
and
need to
sleep
need
and have
something.
cover. And but it's like, but to say that. So, for example, I remember I got advice. You remember Lou Schuler?
Mhm.
So, for those that you don't know, Lou Schuler has been like writing and publishing for years and years and years.
all of the, him and Alan Cosgrove did all of the New Rules of Lifting book
Yep,
series. He
he's-
was the editor for Men's Health.
At Rodale, like he worked at Rodale for a long time. I don't know if he's still doing that or not.
He was at Men's Health too, right?
Well, Rodale publishes Men's Health.
Okay.
And he said, like it just, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but essentially what people would say, well, no one like, oh, why am I going to write a deadlift article? There's a million deadlift articles or whatever it might be, but it's like, yeah, but there's your deadlift article and there's your perspective on that and all of that. And it's like, cause you could go back and say, well, the world doesn't need another of this or another of that, but like you might say things in a way that you could say are objectively better than someone else might say them, but you could also subjectively say that someone else reaches that information through you in a better way than they reach it for somebody else. And like your individual perspective is valuable. And I mean, you have to temper that, right? Because like if someone doesn't really know what the fuck they're doing, like their perspective isn't as valuable as someone that knows what it's doing. But as someone that's essentially written themselves into understanding, you can make yourself understand and make yourself more valuable in the process of trying to express what you do know. And so the word need it is a convoluted word because no one needs anything other than food, water, and sleep, so.
But I want something. So here's what I mean. I was playing the game there of like what someone very reasonably would think is like, we don't need another online program, but I want to build something I know that I want that to my knowledge doesn't exist out there. And so I want to do this. I think when people see what it is, they will want it. But like, if you're just looking for like an online, here's a program to follow. I mean, even that, like, I think I look at a lot of like and again, if I looked at everyone's programs, no, but I've looked at a bunch. You look at like this hybrid training, it's like we have we've spent how many years? Like
a lot of them.
I mean, just the like group type, like we did with Strength Faction. I mean, we're coming up on that style of programming and writing with hundreds of people in mind. Coming up on a decade of that.
Yeah.
and then using it like in different environments, like with Gen Pop here in the gym, with high performers, like with like tier 1 operators. And so then going over myself and like dabbling in, I don't know if I want to say dabbling, like I've kind of dove headfirst into the hybrid training world, and I'm looking at like from a strength conditioning perspective, I just see a whole lot. And it's like everyone can want what they want there, but I just see a whole lot of like body part split and whatever the hybrid part, running, triathlon, like whatever. And I also think, again, it can be whatever people want. And speaking personally, like I want to look at different types of challenges. That's one of the things that I said, and someone sent me a message recently and reminded me of it. And I'm like, yeah, but I still don't look at it that way. They were like, remember when you said you weren't going to be a runner? And they weren't talking shit. They were more just like saying like, look at you, like look at all that you've done. And I'm like, yeah, but I still like wouldn't be like, I'm a runner. You know what I mean? Like
you run like 6 days a week. Man. I think
I run. But my point is, not everything that I need or even necessarily want to do now has to be like a foundation of running. But I think, obviously I think that running gives you a ridiculous base to be able to do other things. But point being, like, if I just stayed the traditional route, like what are my options? I could sign up for like whatever distance run, 5K, 10K, half marathon, ultras of varying distances. I could do a triathlon. I could do some type of a ride only. Like, what are my options? There's not a ton, right? And that's where I just want to get a little more playful. And obviously the thing, you know what I'm working on, but we're not like officially announcing that yet. But like, kind of look and go like, all right, I really kind of want to marry the two of like strength and endurance, like in not just the specific thing I'm getting ready for now, but I think just to look at that and be like, what do we want to take the next 12 weeks? Like, and what do we want to take the next 12 weeks? And like, it'll randomly turn this, like, what do we want to set ourselves up to be able to do in the next 12 weeks? And I don't think it needs to fit this pretty little box of like, it's to run a 50K at the end.
Oh, sure.
I think we can make up really fun stuff and then invite people to have experiences of doing that really fun stuff. It doesn't exist. And it excites me. And like, it's one of the things, like, as we're planning this, like selfishly, but it would only work this way. And I think it goes back to what you're saying, like true to yourself. I'm only building what I want. Like, I'm not like pandering to like, oh, I think people would like this. I'm just like, I would really like to have this. And I would imagine there's other people that would too. And that's what makes it exciting, because I'm not like, oh, I feel like we have to do this. And we've made that mistake in some of our businesses.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, we need to do this because, but it's like, nope. And I would say, I don't think we're doing that in any of our businesses right now.
I don't think so.
And it's a really good place to be, which I think brings it full circle maybe to like my understanding of your first thing of like wanting to, or not wanting, but being your true self.
Yeah.
So
it's the most valuable thing you can do, I think.
But if I offered you $10 million,
no, I've thought more about that. No.
What have you thought about?
Oh, I mean, it's just even more into the, the money isn't as valuable.
No.
It's not.
Have you ever pissed away money?
A lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money.
That's all you do.
Well,
there's a lot of people that win the lottery.
Like they talk about, like Shane Parrish talks about the hedonic treadmill. I mean, I've heard about that before, but still, it's like that would happen. It would you would habituate, like we talked about on the last podcast. It would just be not as meaningful.
And obviously, I don't know everyone, but how many people are there that hit it big in the lottery, and their life just goes to absolute shit?
Yeah.
The money won't really solve for much. It could, maybe, if you were very, very mindful. Like,
I mean, it's not going to suck. Like,
no, but for some people it does.
Yeah, I don't think it would suck for me.
I think it depends on who's getting it.
Yeah, I don't think it would suck. I think, but I don't know that it would be like I would give up other things for that.
It's because I put this stupid catch on it. Yeah, money without the catch wouldn't, but money with that catch.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
So,
well, I'm done. Go ahead and hit the button, Chris. What was I going to call?
This one? What are you? What?
I don't know what I was going to call you.